Right, it's working now. Right, hello guys. Lee Ashby here from Speedway Motocross Memories. I just want to make a quick thank you. Big thanks to the support for Simon Pardo of White Eagle Finance. They give quality financial advice for pensions, investments, mortgages and protection. Check his website at www.whiteeaglefinance.co.uk. Right, I've got an awesome Speedway interview for you this evening. Morning for this man, but evening for me. It's Aussie legend Speedway rider, Todd Wiltshire. How's it going, Todd?
G'day, Lee. Good morning, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good evening, good morning for you. Really appreciate you getting up early to do this.
No, that's all right. It's not too bad. It's 7:30 here, and it's a nice morning. It's all good.
Yeah, I can see that it looks nice in the background.
Yeah.
It's not been too bad in the UK lately, but all of a sudden, all the rain that we've been missing is all coming at once now. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's all going on with the rain full on at the minute. So yeah, not great.
You had a good summer though, didn't you, mate? Like looking at some of the
Yeah, it's really warm, really hot, and even the last month or so, we've not really had any rain or anything. So you obviously know it's on its way.
Yeah, but no Speedway with the good weather. That's a shame, mate.
Oh no, it's terrible, isn't it?
Hey?
It's, honestly, unbelievable. It was looking really good this year as well. A lot of surprises like Jason coming back, Nicky Pedersen's, a lot of the Everson, I think Peter Kilman, quite a few of the guys were coming back to British Speedway. Sure. Such a shame, really. Such a shame. Right, so we'll get into the questions with you. Everyone's been looking forward to this one as well as myself. How did you get into Speedway, Todd, and what is your earliest memory of the sport?
Speedway was just probably a progression for me, Lee, from mini bike riding, dirt track racing.
Yeah.
Here in Australia, it's unlike maybe the Lee Adams and Jason Crumps who had the mini tracks at Mildura, and they sort of started on that. I went down the other side with the motocross. I started with motocross riding.
Okay,
yeah, I done motocross at Lakes Motorcycles at Motocross Club here at Lake Macquarie.
Yeah.
Same place that Chad Reed and Craig Anderson, our two Aussie. To what they started out there a few years behind me, obviously, but and then went from there and then progressed into dirt track racing, which is what the Casey Stoners of the world and all come from. And then from there, you go through the ranks and then eventually Chris Watson, our greatest dirt track rider over here, long track rider, he gave me the opportunity of a Speedway bike there one day and I jumped on him, mate, and it took off from there, really. But it all started at the mini bike club as motocross riding.
Yeah, I see quite a lot of the guys either sort of do the motocross or the grass track. There's obviously a couple of avenues these guys go through, but there has been quite a few that have done the motocross.
Yeah, definitely. It's but I sort of got to a stage with the bikes that I didn't think I was strong enough, or big enough to manhandle the motocross bike. So eventually went down the dirt track side and then found myself onto local Speedway and the results were coming through there and then I got a phone call from Wimbledon in London and in I think maybe late '87 and made me way over in '88 first time.
How did that actually come about? I did have a question about that. How did that actually come about to get that call? Did you just literally get a call from a promoter in Swindon, obviously Wimbledon?
No, a good friend and who actually ended up being my major sponsor back then when mum and dad could only do so much for me in the dirt track days and we got to a certain point and we got so far and I didn't really have anywhere else to go. We won a few Australian championships and then Les Northam from Taree Scrap Metal, he come on board and he said, Todd, what do you want to do? I'm here, I'm ready to help you out and Speedway was the thing, but Les was bringing over Martin Hagan, Trevor Banks, Steve Schofield, Sean Wilmer, all those guys in the early 80s, mid 80s, doing the dirt track racing against the Australians over here. And so Les had a contact through Steve Schofield in London.
Okay.
And so it was sort of, that was a contact there for me to go and stay with Scoey. Les organised that. But no, the first contact was through Peter White, Speedway journalist here in Sydney. And he made contact with the Lanning family, with Russell Lanning in London, and gave my phone number to Russell, and Russell gave me a call, and it sort of all kicked off from there. So and all of a sudden, I only knew one person. I only knew Scoey. He picked me up from Gatwick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he picked me up from Gatwick, come in on Air New Zealand, and I was only
I was just about to say, how old are you? Yeah, 18. Oh, bloody
I was
hell.
only a little fella, and Scowie drove me back to Mitcham, and and put me in his bedroom, and he moved next door, and I was living with his parents, and it sort of went from there, Lee. Yeah.
Straight in at the deep end then.
Straight into the deep end. Yeah, poor Scowie. He gave up his workshop. He's without Steve Schofield, it was it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah, he's a great rider as well. What riders did you look up to and idolise when you were young, Todd, and why? And did you ever get to race any of your idol heroes, as you would call it?
Yes, I did. Initially, I went into mini bike racing, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know Speedway at all even existed, and then and then all of a sudden I'm on a Speedway bike and I'm racing in Europe professionally. It was never planned. It just sort of evolved that way. Didn't even know there was a world championship, to be honest, when you're a young kid riding. But I did see on video, I do remember watching on video the Bradford World Final in 1985, I think it might have been.
Yeah.
And I seen Sam Ermolenko in a runoff with Eric and Hans.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was pretty special. I know Eric took it out, but for Sam, I just thought, wow, I like this guy, and he sort of instantly became a bit of a hero of mine there on the spot. So it would be Sam. He knows that. I spoke to him quite a few times about it.
Yeah.
But that was just from that moment at that Bradford, watching that from Australia, watching that World Final, him up against Hans and Eric. I thought it was pretty cool, and I did. Yes, I obviously got to race against Sam and travel with Sam as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. This is not an easy question, I know, but who were the toughest riders that you competed against in the British League racing days, and why? Pretty stacked.
Lee, I had two careers really. I summed my career up as an interrupted career. I didn't have 2, 3, 4 comebacks, and I'm sort of remembered for that. I had my first career from 88 through to end of 91, and then restarted 97 through to 2003. So I sort of had two careers there and there, and more or less two sets of era of riders as well.
Yeah.
Which was good. I got to experience that. So I would say, in my earlier parts, it was most definitely, the obvious, and Per Jonsson, Hans Nielsen, Sam Ermolenko. Regrettable I didn't get to compete against Eric. I think I only raced against Eric in the one meeting at Ipswich. Regrettable didn't get to do that. Lorraine, Mark I remember going to Craig Boyce and I, we were close mates at the start of 88. We went to Arena Essex, one of our first meetings we've ever seen, and we've seen Andrew Silver and Mark Lorraine go around there, and it just blew us away. I thought, oh my goodness. But so even Andrew early in those days. But then in the back end of my career, the Americans, Greg and Billy, and then obviously Jason and Lee, and the list goes on. Tony, you can't. It's not fair to just to name one bloke. Yeah.
Very stoked. Okay. Was there a certain bike or a sort of an engine that you rode over the years that ended up being a bit of a favourite that you used to sort of go to? And can you remember any years that you had bikes like that you sort of? Was there anything like that?
Yeah, I had a couple, Lee. I had a couple. I had names. One of my favourites.
Oh, you named it. I've heard of this. Yeah.
Called Shania after Shania Twain.
Yeah. I like.
That was a Klaus Lausch built motor. That was very good, and until it decided to disintegrate.
What sort of time was that around? Can you remember?
Yeah, that was around the Oxford days. When I was riding for Vanessa Purchase.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And Steve. Yeah, so that was a favourite motor of mine. It was an English motor. It could sort of go anywhere in the UK and score points.
That was good then. What were your favourite tracks in the British League and why?
I would say first and foremost was Wimbledon.
Yeah.
I was very privileged to get to ride there before it closed, and done a couple of seasons there, and that was a beautiful little track. And outside of Wimbledon, I would say Bradford. Yeah. I'd say Bradford. It was just mad. It was just probably a little bit like Turin in Poland is today, with quite a lot of banking.
Banking, yeah.
Fair bit of speed.
Mm.
So I'd have to say Bradford, mate. It was unreal. It's a real shame that place is not running.
Oh no, it would be amazing to go back there, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
What about anywhere else around Europe? Was there any other favourites that you liked?
Or Sweden, Västervik is my home club there. That was unreal. Yeah. There's many over there. Big Gosh was a great track when I had some dirt on it. Mm. That was awesome. Yeah. And I had success at Landshut in Germany. I was based there for a while, so I enjoyed that one too.
Was there any tracks in the British League that you didn't particularly like and get on with?
I never. There's probably a common one. Many of the boys say is the old Kirky Lane, Bellevue.
Oh yeah.
It just seemed to be so rough. You just didn't know what you were going to get, and it was a bit unpredictable. So for an away rider where you only rode there maybe twice a year, it was hard work. Yeah. And Lee, I never really got to work out Arena Essex. You know, I seen Andrew Silver there in '88, and he was sort of riding. He was going backwards in the middle of a corner, and it was hanging off the side of the bike, and it was pretty cool to watch. And Mark Laram was the same around there. So I never really got my head around that track. Again, I didn't go there often enough to work it out. But yeah, those Arena and Bellevue's original track. Oh, well, Kirk Mizzou Lane,
Yeah. Okay. A bit different from the new Bellevue, that's for sure.
I would love to have to go the new Bellevue. I only watched Jason Crump the other night go around there, and he was enjoying it. So yeah,
nice track now. Yeah. Was there any particular? Did you have any favourite levers or Kevlars that you wore during your racing days that you liked during your career? I remember you had the white ones quite a bit.
Yeah, I stuck to the white. Don't think I had any favourites, mate. I had so many of them. I had Wolf Sport there for a while in my later years.
Yeah, I see that. I remember
purely for the comfortability, they were really comfortable. Mm-hmm. But no, probably not favourites, mate. You're in and out of them so often.
Yeah, so often. Yeah. Just like work uniform in the end, I suppose.
Yeah, and I've got every suit still got them all. Got them hanging them up. I've got them in a museum in Bathurst here in New South Wales.
Oh, that's very nice.
A Speedway museum. They're all hanging up on a rail, so it looks pretty good to see them all there lined up. Yeah.
Yeah, I bet. I wonder is there anywhere online we can check that out? Is there, or do you know?
Yeah, I'm sure there is. It's Ash's Speedway Museum in Bathurst. He's on Facebook and a heap of photos there. So
nice.
Yeah,
I'd like to check that out. Okay, cool. Did you have any superstitions or anything when you were racing? And did you have to do anything specifically on race days or anything like that?
Not really. Really, no, I don't. No, I'm not a big one for that. No.
That's good.
No, I didn't have any.
No.
I wore clean socks every time.
Yeah, pants and all that.
Yeah.
Some people got some weird ones, that's for sure.
Yes, I've certainly seen that. No, I didn't really have any of that. I look at, I don't know what the same category. I've looked at Lee, Nicky Peterson at the start line, and he does all this business and stuff, and there's quite a few riders do that, but I didn't have anything on. No.
That's a good thing. I think to be fair, I think it can sort of weigh on people, can it? I would imagine tiring mentally, maybe, of all these things that they got to do, and if certain things ain't right, and that must be quite.
Yeah, for sure. I reckon it would be. Yeah.
I think you're better off like that. Did it the right way, mate. Next one I got for you. Obviously, you come a superb third in the world at Bradford in 1990, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, 1990. What did that mean to you at the time, and what was your memories of that night?
It come fairly early in my career, mate. It sort of, I only arrived in '88, and then 2 years later, I'm at Bradford in the World Final.
Yeah.
I was a young fella, just going hard, going for it. Like I said, that when I sort of arrived there, the World Championship in England in '88, I didn't really have it on my radar. I was just enjoying riding a motorcycle. I was just a kid in a candy shop, just doing, getting paid to ride a bike, and then you know, you go from there, and all of a sudden you're world championship stuff, and it was I was sort of taking it as I came, but that was a big night, mate. That's probably my biggest night in my career, if I think about it seriously. Yeah. You know, the one-off world finals were pretty special. I know we've got the Grand Prix today, and they're over X amount of rounds, but to go through the qualifying, and it all starts back here in Australia for us as a state championship, and then you go to the Australian Championship, and then the Commonwealth, and then so on overseas, Intercontinental. Yeah. It was a world final just to get to the world final. You know, it was an achievement to get that far. Definitely. So to be in the final 16 on that one night, that was special, and that was for the fans. That was the night of the year, and I went in there pretty confident. I had Neil Levitz, who was incredible for me. Neil Levitz. Yep. He based in the Midlands, and he called me and he says, "Todd, bring your bikes to me. I want to look at them all," and we were good mates. Neil had spent time with me in Australia as well. Got to know him down here. Yeah. And he looked after all my bikes. He stripped them completely down. His mechanic took over for me. I didn't have anyone full time at that time. I was doing most of the work myself, and so Neil got on board and took me all the way, and took me within a point of winning it. Had him in the pits there. My whole family was there. It was my grandma, who was in the mid-80s. When I left in 88, Lee, she said to me at Sydney Airport, and she was an old lady then, my mum's mother. She said, "Todd, if you make the world final, I will be there." And I sort of thought, yeah, okay. You know, that'll be nice, but I don't see that ever happening. You know, I thought it was an effort for her to go to the airport, let alone go to another country. But you wouldn't believe it, Lee, she turned up.
Bloody hell.
She turned up. She woke me up in bed a week before, and I was asleep, and she walked inside, and she's pushing me on the shoulder, and I woke up and I thought I was dreaming. There she is, mum and grandma standing over me. So
that was special then.
That was a big night, and so I had parents there, and then to nearly win it, you know, it was not until after the meeting, or maybe a week or so later, that I thought, wow, you missed an opportunity there, because when I going into that meeting, Lee, my concerns, if you want to put, of who was going to be tough to beat that night. I was riding pretty confident at that stage. I was in the first division and scoring quite well for Reading. I was concerned about Kelvin Tatum and Hans Nielsen. So for me, mentally, they were the two guys that I thought if I could beat them, I could become world champ. And I had a good start, and I looked at the program. I had them both in the same race, and I thought, well, this is good, because if I can get 2 points out of it, if I can beat one, I'm still in the race, in the title hunt here for the championship. And as it turned out, in front of me, they both trapped me, and in front of me, they took each other out. Or I'm not sure exactly how. Maybe Hans or Kelvin, correct me on this, but I think maybe Hans hit Kelvin pretty hard. Kelvin went wide, and I snuck through and stole 2 points, and Hans won it, and Kelvin was behind. So that was a result for me, and I thought I've nearly got the championship here, thinking, you know, I've beaten Kelvin, but I took the foot off the throttle in my race with Sean Moran and Per Jonsson. I thought I could win that one. I had a reasonable gait, and I fell asleep at the start, and they both took off and beat me, and I finished a third, and that was all over. So that was regrettable, but what a night, what an experience. And unfortunately, after that night, I never got the World Championship opportunity again, and then went off, and I got injured the following year. So yeah, it was pretty special.
The atmosphere and everything. I remember watching it on the TV and everything. It was really special, wasn't it?
I think I was only 20. How old was I? Maybe 21. I was only young, but I was riding well. I was fearless. You know, back as you are then. Different when I come back in '97, but didn't have any children, anything like that. So it was an opportunity, but unfortunately, I crashed the year after in '91 at Peterborough in the 14 tournament, pretty hard, and broke my arm, and had to give up my spot to Andy. This is a cool story. Had to give up my spot in the semi-final for the '91 World Final to Andy Smith. He was next in line, Andy got my spot, and then I believe Andy got crook, or Andy had an accident, and his spot was given up to Tony Ricardson in 91.
Oh, right.
And that gave Tony his opportunity for his first World Championship in Gothenburg, and he went on to finish runner-up behind Jano Peterson. So I never.
That was his first sort of shot into it, and the start of it for him then.
Yes, I believe so. And then I got hurt in January '92 and never come back. So I missed 5 of my best years. I missed that. You know, those from 22 years of age to 27 were more than likely my years. And I was never there to represent. So that was a real shame.
Can you sort of explain to us about that injury and everything while we're talking about it?
Oh, yeah. Well, 92, the Australian Championship, still riding high, still going well. And again, I took my foot off the pedal. I was pretty confident in the meeting. I thought I was riding pretty good. And first race, I think I was leading, and I was just going too steady. It's mainly my fault. And Jason Lyons, Aussie, rode for Bellevue for many years. He hit me. He came in under me pretty hard at North Arm in Adelaide, and it moved me. And the track was all stony, and I went down on my bum. It was no big deal of a crash, but there was, unfortunately, when I hit the fence before air fence days. I hit the bottom board, which had earth behind it, and it was just a sudden stop, and it just fractured me hip and pelvis instantly. And I was tired, Lee. You know, they took me to hospital. I thought I was a paraplegic. I had no pain. I had no feeling in my legs, and that was a bit of a nightmare. But laying on the truck, all of a sudden, the switch came, and the pain came, and I was in hell of a pain. And the doctor said, well, that's a good thing. And I understand what he says now.
Not at the time, but yeah.
So I got a bit lucky there, and I was laying in Adelaide Hospital. I was there for 6 weeks and pretty good surgeries. And I was tired, mate. I was over Speedway. I'd going hard from 88 through to 91 with my injury in 91 at Peterborough with my arm. I was tired of Speedway. I was worn out. So when I was laying in the bed in 92 in January, I just said to my family, I've had enough. I need to stay home for a few years. And that's what happened. It was a mental thing. I could have got back on the bike, not straight away. It would have took me 12 months to get back on the bike. But I was mentally drained, so that's why I pulled the pin there. And then it was just the accident 91, 92, and just putting everything into it. I needed a break. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. It's interesting. You won the British League with Reading as well, didn't you? As well as Oxford. I'm sure you did Oxford.
Yes, we won with Reading in 90 that year. 90,
yeah. And then Oxford was 2001-ish, was it? 2002, around that?
Around that early 2000s, mate, yeah.
Yeah, I remember you and Neil Adams and such there. What's your memories about winning those two titles?
Great memories with Reading in 90. We had an unbelievable team.
Yeah, very good, yeah.
Imagine having this team today. Per Johnson, Jeremy Doncaster, Tony Olsen, Amando Castagna, Dave Mullett, Jan Anderson, the old Mr. Reading himself. What's Phil Morris in there somewhere? David Steen. We had some. And I think we cleaned up everything, mate. We went to Bradford and done the KO Cup, and that was a pretty special team. We won that year, and that was good to be part of all that. Go down as one of the best teams I've ever seen. And then with the Purchase family, Steve and Vanessa in Oxford, with Lee, Jono, Steve Johnston. Yeah, we won. I think we might have sewn it up at Ipswich in a way. I'm not really sure, but
I think you did. I remember that on the TV.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, Dave. Yeah.
So that was the second part of my career. Riding with Lee. I enjoyed riding with Lee. That was really cool. That was good. That was rewarding for the Purchase family. Vanessa and Steve put their life into that promotion, and it was really rewarding to get that for them because they looked after me as a family as well. They took me in and my boys and my wife at the time, and looked after us. So that was pretty good time.
Some great memories there then.
Yeah.
What riders have been your favourite in your career to team ride with, and why?
I remember. Oh yeah, it's not fair to pinpoint one out. I had so many over the years.
Was there a few that you could mention?
There's one. I must mention Jan Steckman when we were riding it. And he calls me his partner now. We communicate every now and again on social media, and he says, "Hi, partner," or stuff like that. So, yeah, Jan and I had a good thing going there for a while at Oxford. We got a lot of 5-1s, and we were very successful. So, Jan was very reliable. I always knew exactly where he was, and probably vice versa. So, at that time, Jan was pretty good. Lee Adams, exceptional. You would always, know exactly where he was and what he could do. Yeah. And I had a real small stint with Greg Hancock as well, when he was with us in Oxford.
Yeah.
It's just, riders like that are just easy. You just know you can go in hard, and you're going to come out of the corner with them. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. National titles. You won the Aussie one twice, was it?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
What do you remember about that and your memories of that?
Pretty tough. The old Australian Championship was pretty tough.
A lot of great Aussies, that's for sure.
Yeah. I think I won my first one in Mildura, which was a tough old track down here, and that was rewarding because that was on my second part of my career. That wasn't my first part. So anything that happened after '97 for me was all a bonus because So I won that one in Mildura and very rewarding. And then I won my second one in Mount Gambier, South Australia, on a big sprint car track. Finished, I think, Mount Gambier. I think Lee might have been there with us on the rostrum. That was a pretty good night too. So to win the 2 Australian championships sort of on my comeback in the second part of my career was extremely rewarding, where I've thought all my life that my first part of my career was the best as far as me riding.
Yeah.
And the second part, I was every time I was on the bike, mentally I was playing catch up to the boys that I was competing against. Whereas my first part of my career, I felt that I was the one with the confidence, and everyone had to beat me. So anything that I won after '97 was even more special. Yeah.
So that was rewarding. Then that was pretty cool. So I've checked that out. You won a couple of German Speedway titles as well. Is that right?
I did, yes.
How did you get into doing that? How did you get into doing that?
Well, that was my way back in '97, Lee. I'd been out of the sport for 5 years.
Yeah.
And you had to have a work permit through the British government to compete in the UK. And I hadn't had the credentials to get into the UK. I had Alan Ham from Bradford Speedway, who I more or less signed. I had Peter Johns had a motor ready for me, and I was in the '97 Bradford team. And Alan done all he could to get me a permit, and it fell through at the last minute. And then I'd already sold my house. I was living on my sister's lounge room floor, committed to go back to England with 2 children, two children in nappies, really, really young. And the English thing got pulled out from underneath my feet. So I had a great friend in Germany, Stefan Hofmeister. He's based in Landshut. He's got a fair bit to do with the Landshut Speedway. And I contacted him, and he couldn't promise me anything. I tell a lie, he promised me a bed. But he picked me up from the airport, and George Hack, the old German rider who was the team manager at Landshut Speedway, he said to Stefan, well, Todd can come over. He lived across the road from Stefan. He said, Todd can come over. He can do some practicing, but I can't guarantee him a Landshut Speedway team. And it was only amateur sport over there, so I could go into Germany as a tourist, so to speak, and just race in the German league and get around it that way. And then so that's what I did. I went to Germany. Stefan collected me from the airport in '97. Left my family at home, which was hard work, and then went to Landshut Speedway, and Joachim Kugelmann was a part of the team there in '97, and got to know Joachim, and he invited me to live with him. He had a workshop. He gave me everything. He organised a room for me to stay at elderly people's house in a little village in south of Germany. And again, I was doing this all on my own with the family back home. I bought a bike, borrowed a van, drove to Divisiof, Jawa, pick up a bike, and I only had the single bike at the time, and it sort of I just chipped away at it, and the Kugelman family offered me a job. I was working in their factory in this little village in South Germany, so I had an income, although I was still only an amateur, and I was renting a bedroom off a strange lady that I don't know, an elderly lady in Landshut. I had no idea. She didn't speak English, so I would just come in late at night, walk up the stairs, go to bed, come down the next morning, walk to work, which was I could walk to the machine shop, and it snowballed from there, and my results improved, and Kugelman helped me immensely, and then I got involved. Klaus Lausch helped me in the engine tuning, and I rode my way into England with results. I rode and had great results to a point where I could present to the British government all of these current results that I have now, which really made it impossible for them to say no. And then 98, I spent a year and a half in Germany. I got to a point, I think I might have been 2 months into Germany where I could financially ring my wife, Linda, at the time and say, go and buy the tickets. I need you over here and the boys. I was struggling by then. And come over. And as soon as the family arrived with me, we rented an apartment in Germany, and it went from there. Every dollar counted, or every European money counted. I can't remember what it was back then, Lee, but and then all of a sudden I got the phone call from the purchasers, and I'm not sure whether that was via Jason Crump. He was writing for them at the time. I've got a feeling Jason might have tracked me down and got me in contact with Vanessa, and all of a sudden we're packing the van up, the bikes, and we're driving to Oxford in 98. And I got back in. That was it. I rode my way in through Germany, with a lot of help from some special people.
That was some really hard work to get back into it like that, in that way.
It was, mate. It certainly was. Yeah, it was indeed. A lot of people to thank, mate.
Yeah, fair play. That was good stuff. What would you say has been your most, was there a memorable race or a meeting that really still sticks in your memory today? Even if just a race or as a specific meeting?
No, so many of them, mate. Bradford's my meeting. That first time.
Yeah.
That world final, that night, you'll never forget that. I mean, for me, I'm sort of on the older school side, but I was one of the few that got the opportunity to race in the world individual, the one-off world finals, as well as the Grand Prix system. And I was also one of them that got to ride the upright motor versus the lay-down motor. And there's a big argument, there's a big debate about what's better, the Grand Prix system or the one-off world finals. And it's a huge debate there, but I enjoyed that one-off world final. I got to compete in the Grand Prix. I didn't get the same buzz. Okay, I wasn't as successful, but I didn't get the same buzz. For me, brutally honest, the Grand Prix system, where tonight isn't the night, you can't be world champion tonight. Tonight's just the first step. It was more of a journey to become world champion, and you didn't have the build-up all year. You knew you were in it. There was none of that.
Yeah.
So once you started competing in the Grand Prix, every fortnight or whatever it used to be, for me, it was more or less, it turned into be just sort of another amazing individual meeting. It wasn't a world final.
Yeah.
Like those, you look, the history of those world finals of Penhall and Carter and, Gunnison and Nielsen and, right back to Major and Ollie Olsen, just those one nights at Chorzo and Wembley. I got to be part of that at Bradford, and that's pretty special. That'd be my favourite. Yeah.
Yeah, I did have a question later on for that, so I'm glad you mentioned that about the GP and everything as well. Personally, I thought it was a bit more special as well with a one-off world final. There was a lot of pressure on it as well because it was all on the one night and everything, so it sort of seemed to help the atmosphere and that sort of thing. And
it was, mate. It was special. It was special leading up to it, because you qualify the Aussies and then the overseas and then the Intercontinental and then you finally, everyone would look at the 16 riders who got there. It was always exciting to think, well, who are the 16 that made it this year? You know what I mean? And that was special. That night in September, normally early September, that was the night. And the whole year led up to that. So to be part of that, mate, was incredible. Yeah.
Everyone still talks about them all now, so
yeah.
I'll say no more. Who were your closest friends during your Speedway career? And also, was it easy to block that friendship out once the tapes went up and all that sort of thing?
Craig Boyce, my Speedway friend. Yeah. We grew up racing dirt track against each other as juniors, as 16-year-olds. Boyce and I had a good rival there, always a friendship rival. We've never had a bad word with each other. So we knew each other prior to Speedway. We both went to Europe at the same time in '88. I went over with Scully. I was very relieved when I heard Craig was going over. I thought, oh, well, at least there's a second person over there I know. He ended up in Poole, which is 2 hours south of London. So I was pretty keen to catch up with him. I got over there in late February, early March. And and we end up, it's funny, in '88, we end up sort of spanning for each other. He was on a Tuesday night in Poole and I was on a Wednesday night in Wimbledon. And I feel sorry for Scully because Craig eventually made his way up to London. He left Poole and he come up with us and he made his way up to London. And the Langos were here at the time, Steve Lang, Tony Langdon, and we're all good mates. Yeah. And Craig was renting an apartment of Ray Morton's family in London, and he would bring his bikes around to Scully's workshop. And poor Scully only had a real tiny workshop, and Steve, being Steve, had a million bikes himself because he was in long track as grass track as well as Speedway. Yeah. So Scully only had a single garage, and all of a sudden I'm there with my bike, and he invited me there, which was amazing. And then Boise turned up, being the Australian way, we sort of crashed his place, and then Boise turned up with his 2 bikes, and then the Langos turned up, and then Ian Humper, he was just around the corner, another great mate of ours, and best mates with Scully. He used to come around. We used to have a party there all the time, and poor Scully didn't like it at all. He was, whenever we'd turn up, he'd put his spanners down and walk out. He couldn't get anything done. But no, old Boise was my mate, and then as it got more serious and we got into championships and Australians and world championships and riding with each other, we never had a bad word. So, and we never really rubbed shoulders too much to have any sort of issues. So no, he was in Speedway world. He was and still is my best friend there in Speedway.
I've actually spoken to him as well, and he's going to do one of these as well. So you'll have to keep an eye out for that one.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I asked him about the Scully and Lango.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. And it's quite cool as well that he had the same sort of experience with the one-off world final where he went in the, I'm sure he was in the runoff, wasn't he, with Hans? Was he in the runoff?
Yeah, I think it was with the last one, wasn't it?
Last one with Hans and Tony. I'm sure he was in the runoff. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, he was.
So, yeah. That was good as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've got the actual tape of that somewhere as well.
Yeah.
Did you have any sort of regrets of any kind in your Speedway career? Obviously, I know the injury and everything, but was there any meetings you feel that you should have won or done better or anything like that? Any clubs you wish you maybe had not rode in? Or
my biggest regret probably, Lee, is not being fit enough, and this is all in hindsight. I can sit back now and I've been looking at it for years, thinking that I had a real arm pump issue.
Oh yeah, like Motocross and all that.
Yeah, big time. And not my first couple of years when I was young and the mind was in a different state, and it was becoming easy. But when I went back, I don't think I tried to be fit, but I was sort of kidding myself. I wasn't anywhere near fit enough. Yeah. And at Speedway bike, you think, oh, you're only on it for 60 seconds. It's only 4 laps. But really, for that 60 seconds, you hold your breath. You don't really breathe. And you need to clear your mind. You need to sort of, hang onto the handlebars quite loosely and not get that arm pump. But yeah, I don't think I was ever fit enough. And I believe if I was fitter, my results would have been a lot better. I really had a lot of issues with my wrists and handlebars. So that's a regret of mine. And that's something I pass. If any young kid today asks me, any advice, the first thing I say is, mate, get fit, because you don't want to be thinking about hanging onto a bike. You want to be thinking about, reading race lines and winning the race rather than worry about that. So, I mean, look at these world motocross riders and supercross riders. I just think, wow, those guys must be the fittest people in the world. Yeah. It's just incredible. So, yeah, probably my fitness, mate. I never really put enough into it.
Okay, fair enough. Are you able to tell us a funny story about your racing day memories? Any funny stories you can tell us?
Oh, yeah, a couple. One that I've clearly is in the early days, and James Easter was, poor James. He was he was our team manager for Australia, and I remember he took us out to Hungary in the early days many years ago, and like a long way in the south of Hungary in Szeged. It was a big old drive, and there's myself and Troy Butler and Stephen Davies, Boise, Craig Hodson. I'm not sure if Mickey Poole was there, but there was a whole group of us. And I remember coming home on the freeway on the Hungarian highway, and we were flat out, and there was, I think, three of us all travelling together. And we passed, I wasn't driving, I was in one of the vans. I think Stephen Davies was driving the van I was in. Yeah. And we passed this car on the hard shoulder on the wrong side. Okay. And it was on a bit of a curve. And as we've gone around this, I can't remember what it was, a truck or what it was, but anyway, all of a sudden in front of us, here's these police motorcycles parked up in the hard bay, in the hard shoulder. Okay. So the boys have had to take action to miss the bikes. So the cops have jumped on their bikes and pulled us over. And they got us all out, and they put us all up against the van, arms up, and they interrogate us, and I'll never believe it. And I remember them they give Steve a kick, they kick Steve on the backside, and we all thought it was a big joke. so dangerous thinking about it now. But I remember James Easter was the only mature one out of all of us. He come over, I think he got a £5 note back then, and was it a purple or a pink note back, if I remember. He got a £5 note out of his wallet, and he gave it to the police, and they just said, right, I'll see you, boys. And I just was astounded.
What is this straight up?
My goodness, £5, and we're back on the road again. We nearly killed the cops. Yeah, so it was classic, mate. We had many, many stories like that, but that was one that sticks out of my memory, yeah.
That was some good value for money then.
It certainly was.
Oh, brilliant. You've represented, obviously, your country, Australia, in the World Team Cups, and won some, and that was amazing. What did that mean to you in your memories of that time?
Well, see, that come around, Lee, on my second period of my career.
Yeah.
So when I got injured in 92, the dream was gone. The World Championship dream was gone. I was so close. And I believed in those 5 coming years, I was thereabouts to win something. Yeah. So when I come back in 97, and to get to ride for Australia for a World Championship medal was really what it was all about. Those FIM medals is, it's what World Championship is. And to get to ride with the boys who were riding well at the moment, like I said, I was playing catch up. So Jason Crump come into Speedway when I left in early 90s. And then for him to be riding as good as he was at this time, 99, 2000, 2001, and Lee Adams, obviously the class he was. Boise, we had Jason Lyons, and Ryan Sullivan. To be part of that, it was a pretty powerful team. And I was I could have missed out on that. Those riders alone, they didn't sort of need me. They could still win it. They were still strong enough. But for Neil Street to include me in that was pretty good. It was really appreciative to, I guess my runs early in my career sort of got me the opportunity to be part of them boys. But again, I still felt that even though I was an older fella than Lee and Jason and Ryan, and Boise was my era, but I was still playing catch up against them. They were young kids to me. I was beating them in the early 90s, but then all of a sudden now they're beating me. So for them to accept me into the team and to reward them with wins, I could still gate okay. I remember Lee and Jason loaning me parts, loaning me carburetors to improve my bikes. Will forever be grateful. And to win I think we won the first World Championship in Pardubice in Czech, and that was pretty special, even though it was a part of a 5-man team. But to actually finally Lee, after all these years, get that gold medal that says world champion.
Yeah.
For me, that was like a mini individual world champion. So if you know what I mean, like it took me all the way back to Bradford.
Yeah.
So to get 3 gold medals with those boys was amazing. Was amazing. It was good times.
Is that actually them behind you in that? Is that them behind you on the wall?
Yeah, there you go.
Beautiful.
There you go. There's some medals. Yeah, my wife put them together for me.
Oh, that's nice. Very nice.
That's what, professional motorsport is about, is winning those world championship medals, whether it be silver, bronze, or gold. So that was a special time, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. You won a lot as a team rider and as an individual. Did you prefer to be part of a team, or did you prefer racing as an individual? Did you like both the same, or did you have a preference?
Yeah, I'm probably one of these riders. I was both the same. Yeah, and probably another bit of a downfall on my individual results. I loved being part of the team.
Yeah,
a lot of success for the team. Lee Adams and I we only just missed out by a point being world pairs champions.
Yeah.
Against Hans and Jano Peterson. We shouldn't have lost that one, but with the individual side, again, I didn't really get the opportunity to show myself as a young kid. When I come back in '97 and competing against the Hancocks, the Hamills, the Larams, the Gollobs, the Crumps, the Ricards, the Adams, I don't think I was hungry enough, Lee, as an individual.
Yeah.
You look at Jason. They all say he's got the red hair and everything else, and look at Nicky Peterson.
Yeah.
They just are infatuated with being number one, and absolute credit to them. Their aggression. You've got to be really ruthless, big time ruthless, and I didn't have that. It wasn't in my nature. It might have been in my nature in my early years when I was 18, 19, 20, 21. When I was a young kid, but coming back, how old was I? I was 27, I think, when I come back, and I didn't have that ruthlessness on an individual basis to throw myself at them again. And again, I had 2 children at home waiting for me in nappy, so that plays a big thing on your mind. It's a mental game, this sport. Your ability, your talent gets you so far, and then it's up to you as an individual and your state of mind to go the next steps. And you look at the world championships, the champions thereafter, and they're all the sort of same sort of characters. They're just driven and focused. So I enjoyed my team riding as well. It was the pressure wasn't so much there. You had someone to come with you. So I was sort of a bit of both.
Okay, cool. Personally, as a Swindon Robins fan, obviously grew up as a kid there. My dad and my uncle both raced for them. Did you ever nearly sign for the Swindon Robins at all? At any point? No?
I don't recall ever having any communication with Swindon, mate. No.
Any other British clubs did you nearly sign for at all? Obviously, I know you were Wimbledon, Reading, and Oxford, but any others that nearly happened, or?
Yeah, I would have been a Bradford rider in '97.
Okay.
I was all but signed up with Bradford Alan Ham.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been, who was in the team in '90? Was it Joe Screen, maybe Mark Laram, Gary Havelock?
Yeah. Sean Wilson, maybe.
Sean, was he? Yeah. I wouldn't have, if the British government would have let me in, I would have been a rider at Bradford. No, I think maybe I had some minor communication with Poole.
Okay.
But nothing serious come out of that.
Yeah.
But saying that, one club that I would have liked to have ride if the opportunity ever came would have been the original Coventry. I think maybe Charles Ochiltree and the original track.
Yeah.
The sort of era where Kelvin Tatum, Rick Miller, were John Jorgensen. I always enjoyed that place. That was a lovely place. Always felt welcome. So Coventry would have been one that I would have liked to have rode for as a team, but no, I never did. Yeah.
What did you think of the Swindon track then?
Swindon I enjoyed it. to answer your question, I enjoyed it. But if you weren't on your game, you could really get beat up bad there. You know, it was such a racist track. You needed a really good motorcycle, a good engine. If you went there a little bit off key, if your bike wasn't really up to scratch, you would get run over. But if you went there full of confidence, good equipment, you could have a great night. You could have some fantastic racing at Swindon. That was a really special place. So really, you had to have the right mindset to approach Swindon, and if you got it right, it was really rewarding. You know, you look, you know, the Lees and Lee Adams was just incredible. Darcy Ward, when he was there for the short time.
Yeah, amazing. I saw that myself, yeah.
Real hard races. But if you're off your game, Swindon, you got eaten up at Swindon. Yeah, so it was a good track.
They've actually changed the track now and shortened it, so...
Have they shortened it, really?
Yeah, it took the first bend, the first, obviously, 1 and 2 right in quite a bit. So, yeah, but it seems to have made a bit more passing, I would say.
Have they had race meetings on it, have they, mate?
Yeah. Last few years.
Right.
Yeah, where they won the
really?
Because
I remember that first corner, 1 and 2, was quite a tricky corner. It was sort of, it was running downhill, and
you
had to be... It was a good a passing opportunity, I think, coming out of that corner. But that's interesting. Yeah.
You have to maybe try and check it online. It's a bit different because obviously Jason Doyle's still there and everything. Yeah, but there's been some good racing, and it's all on YouTube somewhere. So if you wanted to check it out,
for sure, I'll check it out.
What do you actually personally feel yourself was your best achievements in Speedway, and why?
Wow, that's a tricky question. Best achievements. Oh, many, Lee. Many. I had some good meetings over the years. I mean, outside of the World Championship medals, I mean, they're the obvious ones. You know, again, Bradford was special, standing there next to Per Johnson and Sean Moran. That was special. My World Championship comeback, you know, to win the challenge, the Grand Prix challenge at Poole. Was that 99, 2000, to win that. And that's a good story because I had actually Craig Boyce in my pits with me that night, helping me get through to the Grand Prix. So we hooked up again as mates. Yeah, and I think that was Boyce. He was the king of Poole, and he helped me out his best knowledge he could around that track, and I won that meeting. So that was special, even though it was a qualifier. It qualified me for got me back into the World Championship. So that felt pretty special, Lee.
Yeah.
I had a memory, you asked me, a great memory I had from an individual meeting was when I was living in Germany and I was uncontracted to anyone in England. I was still making my way back to World Speedway. I got invited to go down to Slovenia, to Kruško, where they run the Grand Prix a few years ago. And I was living in the south of Germany, so it wasn't too far for a drive for me. And it was they invited all the world riders, and I remember this is a good one with Billy Hamill. This must be in '97, and I was still playing catch up, and we got to the final of this individual this one night, and it was a 6-man final, 6 riders in the race, and if I remember rightly, I don't want to miss anyone out. There was Hans Nielsen, Tony Ricardson, Chris Louis, Billy Hamill, Sam Ermolenko, who obviously I looked up to, and then myself. That was the 6 riders.
Wow.
And I was just finding my way around a speedway track again.
Yeah.
You wouldn't believe it. I gated. I trapped them all, and they were all current the world's best.
Yeah.
And I trapped them, and 6 laps was too far for me, and I crashed and burned. I couldn't hang on to the handlebars any longer. I went into the pit corner in there might have been the 5th lap, second last lap, and I was leading them, and I couldn't hang on, and I fell off, and I laid the bike down, and I was just jelly up. My arms were gone, and I picking myself up off the track, and Billy Hamill rode around on his way back into the pits, and I was still laying sitting on the ground trying to get my breath back, and he put his bike on the side peg, and he looked down at me. He said, "Todd," he said, oh, in a typical American way, he says, "Awesome to have you back, mate. Welcome back to World Speedway." And I just thought, wow, that's cool. You know what I mean? Like he could still respect what I'd achieved earlier on to to show me that respect. And
that's nice,
so it was just an individual meeting, but to be able to make the final with those guys at that time of my career, and to nearly win it, and to run out of fitness, and then to get the recognition from them, meant a lot. Yeah,
that's nice. What was your most favourite sort of period in your British racing career? Was it at Reading, Oxford, Wimbledon? What was your sort of favourite? Did you ever? It might not be difficult to pick that up.
Yeah. As a young kid, the Wimbledon one, there was. We just played up, like most of the boys do. Just with Scully, all fun and games, all laughs. Boise and I, we would travel together and share a car and mechanic for each other, and Scully pulling his hair out, Ian Humphreys walking down the lane, winding everybody up. That was a laugh. We were nocturnal for a while because Boise was renting an apartment in London, and we would do Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night at Reading at pool, and then would fly up that night and would wash his bike on the Wednesday morning, and then we'd all travel to Wimbledon that afternoon, which is only 5 minutes down the road from Scully's, and would stay up all night Wednesday night partying. And so that were two different eras altogether. And then I went back in '97, and then the Purchase family at Oxford really looked after us. Steve, they give up their house for us, their workshop, for my family. So I'm indebted to them for that. Yeah, so for different reasons, mate. And then Pat Bliss and Bill Dorr at Reading, and the welcoming they give me. I nearly missed out on that spot. I was Russell Lanning, Phil Lanning, the management at Wimbledon Speedway at the time. They were more than happy. They could see that I needed to move up the league. I needed to get out of the National League and move up to it might have been the British League back then in '99. So they certainly even though Russell probably didn't want me to leave Wimbledon, I was starting to ride really well. They understood that I had to move on, and there was no real place for me to go. But Reading was all full. But I think I recall there was an American rider called Gary Hicks, and was he American or Canadian? I'm not sure, but for some reason they had him pinned in at reserve in the 1990 team, and for some reason it didn't happen. He might have been a Kingsling asset at the time, Gary Hicks. But for some reason, the Gary Hicks thing fell through, and I got a late call up from Pat Bliss, and I was a bit of an unknown. I certainly wasn't their first choice. And all of a sudden, I get a call from Russell and says, "Oh, Reading wants you. What do you want to go?" I said, "I didn't really know Reading. I didn't know Pat. I didn't really know any. I didn't know Per. I didn't know Jeremy Doncaster, or I didn't know any of them. I knew the names, but I was not their first choice. But anyway, I found myself at Reading. And mate, I slipped into reserve, and history says it all. All of a sudden, I think within Donkey was number 1 and Per Jonsson was number 3, and what a team, Jan Anderson, and it took off from there, mate. Before I knew it, I was riding number 1 for one of the best teams in the country, and I had Per and those boys around me, so I was fortunate to get that spot.
Yeah, very. That was a superb team. I've actually spoken to quite a few of them as well. I've got Tony Olsen I'm going to be doing, Jan Anderson and Per. So, yeah, some really cool ones to come. I look forward to them. Were there any riders that you didn't particularly like racing against? Was there any guys that you always seem to have run-ins out on the track with? Was there any guys like that for you?
No, I don't think so, mate.
No?
I don't think so. No, I was I'm a pretty easygoing guy.
Yeah.
Did I? No, a lot of people thought there was a bit of animosity amongst me and Jason Lyons because of my injury in '92. But Jason and myself personally didn't have any issues. But I know there was rumours all floating around back then. But the only sort of incident, Jason attacked me, Jason Crump. Jason, I had an issue. And I think in 98 it's the only thing I can remember, to be honest with you, Lee, in 98 at Oxford, and that was just a racing incident. And Jason, I knocked Jason pretty hard going into the third bend, and I think it might have been my first meeting for Oxford, and I was actually riding with Jason. We were both riding for Oxford, and Jimmy Nielsen, he gave me a bit of a hit on the inside, and I ricocheted into Jason, and I can see how Jason's seen it. He thought that I've run into him, and whether he thought it was on purpose, I don't know. I'm not really know. But anyway, yeah, he sort of gave me a bit of a roughing up on the track and thought that I tried to kill him, but that's all good now. That's all water under the bridge. And Jason and I speak once or twice a year. It's nice to be in contact with him still. So no, I haven't. I don't really recall any riders that I was ever concerned about or had to run in with. A lot of people, I'd imagine to this question, a lot of people would say Nicky Peterson, but I never really had that issue with Nicky. I rode with Nicky, Vestovic, and maybe I was always on the good side with Nicky. Maybe I was always his team partner rather than against him.
It's a good thing.
Used to travel a lot with Nicky through the airports and stuff, but I don't recall any issues, mate, with any riders. No.
All good. I've got another difficult one for you. I've asked quite a few of the guys this, and who would you say were I've put the best three riders that you ever competed against in your career?
Best three? Wow. I tell you, one rider that sticks into my mind, and I only say this because I see a lot of videos of him, and I look at him because of what he done, was Eric Gunderson, and I really regret not competing with Eric because of his injury, obviously, in '88. And I look, because I think of Hans Nielsen. When you ask me that question, I say Hans Nielsen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I know he only won he won four world championships, and he could have been many more. But I used to look at Hans and think he was a bit of a robot. Like, he was insane. Like, the way he used to ride that motorcycle. He had a 10-point average. He rode 10 tenths, whether it be World Final or whether it be for Oxford.
Yeah.
But then I look in his early days, when I was coming into Spoo, I look at Eric Gunderson. Eric used to seem to always have this knack to beat him when it mattered. And Eric used to pick himself up to 11 when he had to, but he always maybe ride a 9 behind Hans on the league meeting. So Eric always intrigued me to think, wow, this guy must have been good to be able to beat Hans on those moments. But yeah, no, definitely Hans was the one that I thought was just, if you could beat Hans back in my early day, you were riding well, and more importantly, if you could trap him, because he was a gator, and some of the starts he used to make was just incredible. So I modelled myself off him in gating, and he was my biggest challenge. So, and I used to make my best starts when I was racing against people like that. So Hans Nielsen obviously was just a machine. But then, when I come back in the second part of my career, it all changed. Hans wasn't as strong as he was. He was on the way out. And then all of a sudden you had, Greg and Billy Hamill Greg Hancock, Billy Hamill had matured into world riders by the time I'd come back.
Yeah.
Where when I was riding at Reading, they were a year and a half behind me. The dominance of Tony Ricardson was impressive.
Yeah.
Feel sorry for Jason Crump, because in a sense that he hit Tony at that era where Jason, I think, might have finished on the world rostrum 10 years in a row, whether it be gold, silver or bronze. Like, you can't ignore that.
No.
So, Jason was exceptional when I come back. Lee Adams, the book, we called him the book. Some pretty special riders out there, mate. And
yeah, massive.
And Per Jonsson, he's amazing, and I'm really appreciative to spend some time with him at Reading. It was pretty good.
Yeah, top riders. If you could give good advice to any youngster out there that wants to become a professional spear rider, what would it be? I know you sort of touched on it a little bit earlier when you mentioned about the fitness as well, but
yeah, that's probably the first tip, mate. Yeah, be fit. Don't take it for granted. Again, people probably look at triathletes and Olympic runners and whether it be tennis players or whatever, who need to be fit. But to be a motorcycle rider, mate, you have to be incredibly fit. If you want to be winning, to be riding at a world level. So that's my first tip, would be fit. Don't take it for granted. And then, look, it's a bit of a catch-22. This is what happened to me from 89 to 90. I started out as just enjoying riding my bike, and it was just fun. So you need to keep the entertainment in it. You need to enjoy what you do. You need to enjoy your job so it doesn't become a chore.
Yeah.
But then the more serious it gets, the more pressure creates. Sponsorship comes involved, so there's more people relying on you. So then it's really hard to keep that join factor up. And then to actually, you can sort of get to a certain level in world racing, whether it be, I would imagine, be same as motocross. And then to step up to be, a top 5 rider consistently in the world, then it's the mind game. It's up to you. Mm-hmm. And then you have to focus, and you have to put that extra focus in on it. And everything has to be put aside. Speedway is king. Your sport is king. So to balance that fair dinkuminess, as an Aussie way of putting it, you've got to be serious about this, and this is your life.
Yeah.
Versus still enjoying it of what you do. It's a bit of a balancing act.
Yeah.
So they've got to be fair dinkum. They've got to take it serious. They've got to be focused. But somehow in all that, you've got to continue the enjoyment. Otherwise, what happened to me in '92. I was only a young kid, really young kid, my early 20s, and I was burnt out. And I needed to stop. So, keep fit, continue to enjoy, but then certainly focus. And, it's a mind game.
Yeah, I'm not in it. What other sports do you enjoy watching? Is there any other you enjoy watching, Todd? Or?
We're down here in Australia. We've got they call V8 supercars, which is just touring cars, saloon cars. Down here, V8 racing, Holden versus Ford. It's an Aussie tradition. I really I enjoy watching that each weekend, as well as my Speedway. So that's my biggest thing. For Australians, will know that. Maybe Europeans won't know that too much. I really enjoyed the Supercross. I followed Chad Reed quite closely.
Yeah.
Chad being a local boy to here, to Lake Macquarie.
Yeah.
So that was really nice. And his cousin, Craig Anderson, still in contact with Craig here now. I really enjoyed the motocross and the Supercross. And the MotoGP, obviously with the Australian connection still with Jack Miller in it. We've had the Casey Stoners. Casey was a local boy here to it for a short part of his career. So, and obviously the McDill and the Wayne Gardners, and it's good to see that Wayne Gardner's young bloke Remy's coming through the ranks. So, but first and foremost, my passions is the Speedway and the V8s firstly, and I'm sort of losing a bit of interest in the Supercross now because Chad's pulling out. But
yeah, he's just retired. Yeah.
The Lawrence boys are going well, coming back into it. So no, I enjoy that, mate.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get hold of Chad Reed as well. That'd be a really cool one if I can get hold of him. You were part of obviously the GP series as well in your comeback. Did you enjoy that? And what were your memories of that?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's again, I don't think it was the atmosphere was as good as the one-offs. It's just a different game altogether. You really can't compare them. They're not apples and apples. You know what I mean? It just changed. Ricardson set the standards with all the new motorhomes. It sort of went along the MotoGP style, and Lee as well, and the professionalism it just lifted its game. You know what I mean? And it was pretty good. It was a bit of a Speedway circus going around the world, and a lot of focus was on us through the media, and yeah, it was good. It was good memories, but I think I would rather ride in a one-off than a Grand Prix. I mean, I had some great nights at Cardiff. Ryan Sullivan picked me up the line. I should have won that. I had a good run. I had a fair few rostrums and enjoyed it, but maybe it's my age, mate. I just still enjoyed the one. There's something special about them, Yeah.
Do you think that Cardiff was probably as close as it got back then to sort of almost like a one-off type of maybe?
Yeah, I think so. You're probably right. Yeah, it definitely. To have all that, when they packed that stadium out, it was incredible. The sound and the roof closed, and it was good. But you just don't get, even though Cardiff was the current day world final, you didn't have that build up all year. As an individual rider as Cardiff, you know what I mean? Because there was always tomorrow. You had Poland the week after or whatever else. It was just a mental game, mate. But yeah, it was I'm very privileged to be part of all the Grand Prix system. Yeah.
Do you personally, you sort of said did a bit. Do you follow the Speedway GP much at all now? Do you, and the British League even? Do you follow any of that?
I do. I do. Yeah. I watch all the Grand Prix, obviously. Tape them and watch them the next morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do, and I'm really it's good to see young Max Frick. He's worked hard to get into it. Had a bit of communication with Max before he got into it, and done a little bit of work with him and his father, and really pleasing to see Max going well, and good to see young Jackie Holder in it now. And he's get wild card, a good opportunity for the next couple of nights. So, yeah, I follow it. I really, I'm just enjoying watching the new era come through. It's good to see Smarslick, what he's doing. He's, it's interesting to see what he's going to do, whether he's going to continue to ride like he is, because he's pretty spectacular to watch.
Yeah.
So I follow the Grand Prix quite closely. I really enjoy watching it. Yeah.
I was actually going to ask you, what Speedway riders do you actually enjoy watching race now, and why?
Like the way the Grand Prix has gone today, and the Grand Prix organisers keeping wildcards up their sleeve, and they're continually getting these top riders at every meeting. Absolute credit. Poland's sort of dominating the world with some of these young riders and that, but it's so pleasing to see the Freddie Lindgrens having a real good go at it. You know what I mean?
He's doing very well.
The emergence of Ty, he's mentally strong. That kid, Ty Wolfington. I was talking about, he's world championship material. Just, he's got his 3 obviously, but you can just see, the difference in mind games with Ty. He's an incredible strong kid in the mind. And the Poles, it's great to see Smart. I would have said 2-3 years ago, Smarslick was a bit, I wouldn't have liked to have rode in front of him. He's sort of one of those riders think, oh shit, is he going to come through me?
Yeah.
He was a bit loose, but he's starting to mature. And he's really settling down and putting some bloody good race. He's spectacular to watch. Doyley's a late bloomer. Jason Doyley, local boy to me here in Newcastle. Known Jason for a long time. He's also obviously a world champion. He's got that mind. He's just so focused, and he deserves everything he's getting. So it's the current boys. They're all doing fantastic. It's awesome, mate. I'm really pleased. I hope that Max is maturing. He's really maturing, and Max is. I sort of put Maxie Frick in a little bit of the Lee Adams scenario, where he's a little bit like Lee, the way he rides. I've always thought Max is a bit of a cross between Lee Adams and Peter Carlson. He's sort of a bit of a mix to his riding style.
Yeah, but armchair thing going on, yeah.
Max is a nice kid, and I hope he's not too nice. He's got to get that fire and that arrogance. I hope Chrissy Holder can come back, because his talent. He's a little bit like Darcy Ward. I put Chrissy Holder in the same sort of basket as the Moran brothers, as Kelly and Sean, where the natural ability just oozes out of them. Chris doesn't. I know Chris's dad quite well, and remember watching Chris and Jack Holder ride at a junior speedway track in Sydney years and years ago, and I thought, wow, these kids aren't even thinking. They just turn the throttle and they just do it with their eyes closed. And that's how good Chris is. I just hope that he can get himself back to the world stage, and it looks like his brother's going to do the same. So that's really nice.
Yeah, still a lot of talent out there, that's for sure. You won the Intercontinental title as well.
I did. Was that you talk? Yeah. Is that to get into the Grand Prix, or in the early days to get into the World Final?
Yeah, more like that's what I meant. Yeah, the earlier one. Yeah.
Yeah, I won. I think that might have been the overseas final. I won the overseas final at Coventry. No, I didn't. Donkey won that. Didn't Donkey win that? Donkey won that. The overseas final at Coventry. Sean Moran was third. That was in 1990. Stretching my memory, Lee.
Did have it.
No, I won the. Did they call it the the Intercontinental, or was it the Grand Prix Challenge at Poole? That qualified me for the Grand Prix in 2000.
I was checking it all out, and it's down as Intercontinental, but maybe it was.
It might have been the one at Poole that I won. Yeah.
What was your... you obviously enjoyed that.
Oh, mate, yeah. I mean, I remember Mark Laram, I think, might have been favourite. He might have been a current Poole rider at the time. And tearing that place up.
Yeah.
Like I said, I remember having Boise in my corner. And, I managed to win that. That was pretty special. I think I had a good race with Mark. I don't know if it was my last race or not. I managed to beat Mark, but that got me into the World Championship, or as it was then, the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
That was a big night.
Yeah. All right, I've got a couple more for you. What have you been doing with yourself since your Speedway days?
Well, I come home in 2003 was my last season. So 2004 was my first year home. Went back. My time was up. I was late 30s, and again, I had the family relying on me, and it was getting tougher and tougher. The mind plays the game. Yeah. Now you look at Greg Hancock, continued to ride at world level well into his 40s. Pretty impressive, but it wore me down again, late 30s, and I was tired. So I was always finishing 2003 and come home in 2004, and went through a pretty ordinary family divorce with the wife, and my boys were Anders and Logan at that time. They weren't teenagers, but they were young kids, and sort of family got separated for a little while, and went back working. Went working in the mines, in the coal mines here in the Hunter Valley. It's world renowned, the mines here of coal supply around the world and for Australia. And I had a friend of mine who worked in the mines, and he visited me, and I said to him, I said, "What are you up to, mate?" He said, "Oh, I work up at the mines in the valley and open cut." And I said, "Oh, yeah, how do you do that?" And he showed me a roster card, what he works, and it was like 5 days on, 5 off. And I thought, you fitting, you're only working half the year. He said, "Yeah." I said, "That's semi-retirement." He said, "Would you like a job?" And I said, "Oh, mate, if you could get me a start, I'll be interested in that." I was still searching and looking around what I was up to.
Yeah.
And anyway, I've got to start there, and I'm still there, mate, 15 years later. Semi-retired, sort of working half the year. I mean, it sounds easy, but it is tougher than that. But I work 5 on, 5 off, and night shift involved in that as well. But got working in the mines, but remarried. Found incredible lady and family in Virginia, my current wife. Married in end of 2008, 2009, our first year. So
don't get that wrong, Todd.
No, I can't get that wrong. No, she's looking at me. Life couldn't be better, mate.
That's good.
Virginia, she had a boy to her first marriage, young Jack.
Yep.
He's 16 now. He's incredible. Academically, I'll gloat. He's just killing school. Something that I was terrible at. And my big boys, mate, when Ginny and I, we had a boy together, young Bud. He just turned 11 yesterday. So he's the link to our family. And my big boys, mate, Anders and Logan, who a lot of European people have met through Germany and Sweden and England. And you should see them now. They're little men. They're much bigger and stronger than me. And they're both working with me in the mining industry. Different mines to me, but Anders, my oldest, 27, he's an electrician, and Logan, who's only a year behind him, he's a fitter. So very blessed. They're both going very well. I'm very lucky. They're both secure in their life, and very proud of them. And I'm proud of my whole family. And they've got 2 beautiful partners, girls. It's always hard as parents that you hope your children pick good partners, and we're very fortunate. Amy and you wouldn't believe it, but Amy's Anders' partner. She's unreal, and they're both fitness fanatics. They're so fit, these kids. Bought their first home recently, so they're going very well. And Logan's partner has a child, little Quinn, and he's gorgeous to her first partner. But they're both called Logan. Logan's founder Logan.
Oh, right.
So we call them Girl Logan and Boy Logan. It's quite hilarious. When they come and visit us, the Logans are coming around. So very, very blessed, mate. Very, very lucky as a father, and Virginia and I as parents. So, still working in the valley. 15 years I've been working in the mining industry, mate, and working shift work. It's wearing me out slowly. I've only given myself 8 more years in it to hopefully can get out of mining, but enjoying that, mate. Yeah.
But it's good to see you happy then, mate. So happy in life.
For sure.
That's good. Last one I was just going to say was, I don't know if there was any shout outs you wanted to make, and was going to ask you what your social media names were, if anyone wanted to follow you or, give you a comment or.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty terrible on social media, mate. I probably like, a lot of people. I don't. I look at it every now and again, but I'm not big on social media. But it's just the norm. Facebook, I'm on there as Todd Wiltshire, and I'm the Instagram and Twitter as well, just as Todd Wiltshire. You can find me on any of them. I'm probably more on Twitter than anything else. Just catch up with the boys every now and again, just have a little chat to them. But Virginia, my wife's quite big on Facebook and Instagram. She enjoys it and does very well at it. So she tags me in a lot of things, which is nice. She didn't originally, but she has recently, and it's good because I'm hopeless at it. But it's connecting all the European people back to me and what I'm getting up to in day-to-day life with the children. And we spend a lot of time in the water with the boys, skiing and going to the beach and stuff, and snow skiing. We do a fair bit of snow skiing, believe it or not, down here in Australia. Yeah. So, and Virginia, when I married Virginia, her family was well into snow skiing, so she introduced me to that. So, and hence we introduced our boys. So Virginia's good on it, and she tags me a lot of stuff. So, and I've had a lot of comments from European friends now thanking Virginia for that, so they can see what we're up to. Yeah,
it's good because there's a lot of memories seem to all come flooding back online, don't they? In the pictures, and everyone still idolises you guys, and it's quite nice to see.
It is nice to see some of the comments. It's very nice and appreciative. But mate, I've got Steve Schofield, the Lanning family. Steve Schofield, he gave up his whole house for me. He gave up his boyhood bedroom for me. I stayed in his bedroom with his parents, and he was living next door with his current wife. I'm going to miss someone. I know I'm going to miss out on someone. The Lanning family, Dave Lanning. He created the fastest alive over the first 25, and I stayed with the Lanning family, Dave and Leona, for a while, and Philip Lanning was only a little fella then, but they were all incredible for me. Russell Lanning in the Wimbledon days, and then Bill and Pat Daw, Reading. It goes on. Vanessa and Steve Purchase, and then James Easter was very instrumental. He stuck his neck out a few times for me and given me opportunities in the World Championship rounds. So I'll be forever grateful for James for that. And Neil Livitz was I'm still in regular contact with Neil Livitz. Yeah. He's a great friend. Him and Boise are my two friends in the Speedway world, and Neil and I still communicate weekly about this and that, about riders, motors and stuff. The list does go on, mate. Germany, Stefan Hofmeister and his partner Manuela at the time, and the Kugelman family, Joachim Kugelman, who's still tuning motors, and Sweden, and best mate up there, Morgan Anderson, who's the Swedish team manager, and his wife then, Rosita, and Pekka and me. There's a lot of people going to be watching this, and I'm going to miss out on somebody, but it's been an awesome ride, mate. Yeah.
Well, it's really cool to meet you, Todd, and I really enjoyed the chat.
Thank you, mate. I must say Marvin Cox was instrumental in my World Championship comeback.
Oh, yeah.
Mikey Baumstart. Marvin was my mechanic then, and how valuable it was to have an ex-rider with me. And I must finally thank the Monarch boys.
Oh, yeah.
Team Monarch, Ken Soanes, the Oxford Days, and all the big boys. Mickey T, Andy.
That was a sponsor, wasn't it?
That was a sponsor. But the Oxford crew, mate. Kenny Soanes and Mickey T and that, and Andy. What a time! It was incredible.
Well, I'll get this out there, Todd, and I know everyone's going to enjoy this. On Facebook, I know there's Todd Wiltshire things on there and Reading Racer groups, and I should be getting this all around, and hopefully everyone's really going to enjoy it. So I really enjoyed chatting with you.
Good on you, Lee. Thank you, mate. I hope I haven't missed anybody here, but I'm sure I have.
No problem. I'll tag you all and everything on social medias and everything, and send you the links and all that sort of stuff, and get it out there. And I really appreciate your time, mate. Thanks ever so much.
Good on you, Lee. Thanks very much.
Thanks very much, Todd. Take it easy. Thank you very much. Cheers, mate.
Bye.
Bye.